And whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, I'm Rachel. Simple things can make a big difference in people's lives. So
Hey,
last week, yeah.
We lost you right after you said, hi, I'm Rachel.
Okay. I'm a massage therapist and a postural alignment therapist living on Nantucket. And I work with people with chronic pain and chronic stress and disease. And I really love helping people find simple solutions for their lives that make a really big impact in their lives. So just to start, today's is for informational purposes. If anything feels uncomfortable or you have any questions about whether it's safe for you to do these activities, please do talk to your doctor and or feel free to contact me. You should have my contact information in here. I will probably lose internet at times. I'm working on that, but if one of you would let me know, I'll try to stop, and then you can let me know when you can hear me again. Today, we're really going to focus on, it's going to be an addition for last week, so I'll check in to see if anyone had questions. Last week, we worked on foot stability and foot mobility, which was the stability was, Paul, do you have a question?
Yes. What is the purpose of the toe spreaders?
Oh, okay. The toe spreaders are to stretch the feet a little bit.
Just to stretch the feet a little bit? That's
yes. I'll go into where they could be helpful for you in a bit. Okay. But last week we talked about foot mobility, which is really that the bones get to move a little bit better and the foot gets to move a little bit better. It's not so stiff. It's not like a block anymore. And then we talked about stability, which is really used by being able to use your toes better. But the fact that you are stable is really that your brain gets to feel your feet better, and that the nerves in your feet are giving proper and fast signals to your brain of where you are in space. And being confident in where you are in space is a very important element of your body being stable, okay? So today we're going to work on what ideal body stacking looks like. We're going to be talking about stride length and what is your stride length and how to improve your stride length. We're going to go over a protocol exercise for the feet, and we're going to go over some specific exercises for foot stability. Now, we may not get to every single one, but what I'm hoping is that you will get the concept of why one might be beneficial to you, and you will have the keys of how to access more information. And one of those ways is always to contact me. So, Paul, you had a question about the toe spacers. The toe spacers are less necessary, but some people would want to stretch their feet out. So when we stick our feet in tight shoes, it's like our feet are jammed together, and all the tissue between our feet don't have much of a chance to stretch, okay? Our feet and toes are supposed to be able to stretch a little bit, wiggle a little bit, and the tissue needs to be stretched a little bit. So I could take my hands for my feet. Imagine this is my feet. I could take my hands and spread them apart, and now I'm getting a nice stretch in this tissue, okay? It's more treatment for the tissue. Or you could put the toe separators on. It's a little bit lazier, okay? So if I was to do it with myself, let me see if I can show you my feet. But in my feet, okay, I might stretch my toes apart just sticking my fingers in there. But sometimes that's hard to do. So if you wanted to stretch that tissue, using the toe spacers would be one of them. That's more for the yoga toes one. The correct toes It's a brand. If you go to it, you will see all sorts of information, but that's going to spread the feet apart, the toes apart. You also have to have a shoe that accommodates it, but it can be very, very helpful to make sure you're walking with all sorts of planes, okay? When I think about you specifically, I'm guessing what your feet look like, but my guess is to spread your toes would be helpful, but an insole that's a little bit bumpy, and we'll talk about that, might be beneficial to you. But does anyone have any questions from last week when we talked about the exercises of moving the toes, or why one might use a type of ball to be able to release the tissue on the bottom of the feet? Was anyone surprised at how difficult it was to get your toes to work? Or were any of you surprised that you were able to move your toes better than you thought? Anyone?
Well, the exercise certainly increase your flexibility. You get better as you do it.
Absolutely. For several reasons, one of which is most of our feet fall asleep or stop working because we haven't been using them, and they rather quickly come back. And also, we're really training our brain more than anything, and the brain craves that stability, and when you start giving it back, it comes back very quickly. It's not like the cardio exercise, which requires a great deal. Your brain is craving that stability, and if you start to give it that feedback, it's pretty quick at coming back. Okay, if we don't have more questions, yes, Paul?
No, I'm just saying that I started to use the balls, and going from a tennis ball, and then smaller balls that usually you might have around the house if you have paddle games, the smaller things. And I don't know if it was my imagination, but I have some shin pain, and I swear that it was helping.
Excellent. There's a slightly complicated reason of why you probably had the shin pain, but it's probably going to come down to, now that you're releasing and feeling better on the bottom of the feet, you're not gripping as much like this, quite as much. But there's all sorts of things that this might help. You guys might be surprised at how well feeling the feet is going to help everything in the rest of your body, because really this is your basement. Your feet are your basement. So if we're going to consider our feet our basement, I'm going to show you real quick what ideal body stacking is, okay? So ideal body stacking is on the PDF from last week. And if you don't have it yet, Amy is going to send it to you, okay? It's on the first page. And in ideal body stacking, you're going to have your joints pointing forwards, feet, knees, hips, and shoulders. We're going to load the pelvis through the ankle and not the midfoot or forefoot. And we're going to, I say here, how are we stacking? Take pictures. But if you have a question, take a picture and email it to me, and we can talk about it. Now, many of you will not have, particularly your feet pointing forwards, and that there's all sorts of reasons of why that might be, and it's not always as simple as just working on the foot, but we will talk about what is ideal, okay? And then we're going to talk about what your stride length is. And one of the main things I want to teach you today is how to work with a half foam roller to both see what your natural stride length is, but also how to increase your stride length, okay? The reason we want to increase your stride length is that we should be taking the proper stride length for the amount of space we have in our, I'm going to say our back line, but it really has to do with our calves and our hamstrings. So many people, their foot issues lately have been because of this. They were taking too big a stride for the amount of space they had to do it, and it was creating other issues in their feet. And they were going to a podiatrist, and their podiatrist said, oh, just shorten your stride length. But they didn't know how to test their stride length and they didn't know how to adjust their stride length. So we're going to go over that. It will most likely be surprising to most people, okay? Then I'm going to teach you how to stretch the front line with your feet. Okay, this is a Katie Bowman stretch. And I'm going to teach you a general protocol for both your feet and your feet into your body, with really teaching the concepts of why we choose it. So most of us have issues in our feet, and we're talking basic issues. You could very complexly look at all sorts of individual bones and ligaments in the ankle, and that's very, very complicated, and that's not, I'm going to take like the really simple view of looking at feet issues. But most people have feet that aren't working properly because we've stuck them in shoes. And then we overuse some of our, they call it extrinsic muscles, but we overuse our calves and we underuse our glutes. And we underuse our little foot muscles. So most people will improve by getting that foot to be more mobile and stretching your back line. So that's the simple view of it. And then the more that we add tactile stimulation into it, the more our brain gets to get the sense of feeling where we are. All right, so first let's start with ideal body stacking. So with ideal body stacking, we want our joints pointed forward, our knees, hips, and shoulders. Now, no one is perfect, right? Including me. So I just have to see if I can get the right angle on, okay. So you're not going to be able to see my feet. I will show my feet in a second. And essentially, though, we want our hips. We take where our hips are, right? So this is hips, and we want it to go through our feet. And I'll show you where it is on my feet in a second, okay? But we essentially want most things to be facing forward. From a side view, okay, we want our joints to be stacked up on top of each other. So what you often see with people is their hips are back and their bodies are forward, or they shift their hips forward and their body comes back and forward like that, okay? As far as it looks on the feet, so with the feet, you know, a lot of people's feet might be like this, or they may be like this. Very rarely do we see people that make these.
Uh-oh.
Lost bandwidth?
We lost the audio.
That happens, none of it comes and goes. Listen, I'm loving to go to that.
Why it might look differently. Just a second.
Rachel,
Yeah.
we just lost your audio for the foot portion.
Oh, okay. I'll go over it. Just a second.
Yeah.
Someone stop the dog. Okay. All right. So with the feet, I had talked about how my hip distance right here, in theory, okay, we would want those points in our hips to match this point right here in my foot, okay? So that would be ideal stacking. And I can see as I'm standing here, I have a little bit of rotation in my knees. So there's, even the experts tend to have all sorts of issues with it. But in the ideal world, okay, a lot of people will improve when they work on getting their body stacked up properly, okay? There will be all sorts of reasons, especially with the external rotation of the foot and the femur having to do with the hip, but that's a little bit more complicated today. The next thing I'm going to talk about, any questions on what ideal body stacking looks like before I go on to how to tell your stride length? Okay, so Katie Bowman is famous for her half foam roller calf stretch. What is your stride length? And it's a great test and treatment, okay? So the half foam roller, I'm gonna put it on the ground. So the half foam roller is the half foam roller is listed in your thing, and it is going to, you're going to feel a stretch in your calf, but how far you can bring your other foot forward is going to be what your stride length is, okay? It's probably easier to do in person because people will feel it. They will start to fall over. They will wobble a little bit. And I'm not sure I'm going to present the whole picture really, really well. But essentially, I'm going to want to stretch my ankle on the half foam roller, half over each other. In other words, not shift my hip forward, and then see how far I can bring my other leg forward, and that is what my true stride length is. Some people have, everyone has a smaller stride length than they think. Many people have even a negative stride length, meaning when I put my left foot up on the half foam roller, my right foot is actually behind my left foot. And how you can tell whether you have the space is you're either going to need to shift your hips forward, or you're going to need to, you're going to bounce. So I might bring my foot really forward, but I'm going to bounce and wiggle a little bit. And so that's going to indicate that I don't really own it, okay? So let me bring this down and you can see, I should have experimented more with this space. Okay, so I have the half foam roller. I'm going to put the half foam roller, and I'm going to feel a nice stretch in my calf, okay? And now I can tell I'm really tight. I actually have spent a lot of time on the computer the last couple of days. But what I'm really going to do, okay, so my weight is not really pressed on the thing. It's about feeling the stretch. But I'm going to see how far forward I can bring my right foot, which is this foot, and not bounce. Now, I don't know if some of you can see, but I'm bouncing right now. So I don't have that much space. Okay, so I'm going to bring this stretch back, this foot back, so I see how much I can own in this stretch, okay? So now my left foot, this one on the foam roller, I have my hip over my ankle, and I don't know if you can see, but I pretty much have a negative stride today. It's not very far forward on this leg. So how does this, so I should spend more time stretching my back line today, and I will. What does this mean in real life for us? Most people will go to do walks, and they will think, it will be athletic walk, and they will think, okay, I got to really go fast, I'm going to be athletic, okay? They will think this, then they go to take a walk, okay? And if you have a very negative stride length, but you go to take a walk, and I'm now going to take a really, really big walk, okay? I don't have the space in my back line to do it properly. So I'm going to hinge at my hip to be able to have the space in that line to be able to accommodate the back line. And how this, so you see lots of people on the bike path with hinged hips, okay? And they're walking really fast and they're tending to look at the ground. Where is that a problem? It's a problem because they're likely weighting their foot too much. And I'd forgotten to talk about where you weight your foot, but I will in a minute. They are using their hip flexors more than their glutes. And simply from an athletic standpoint, you want to be engaged in glute. In gait, you want the propelling forward motion to come from your glute. And with looking at the ground, you're a little bit more likely to fall. Now, you also can fall if you can't feel the ground properly. So don't make changes till your foot is stable. You can use your eyes to look down on the ground better and a few other things. But it's really great to recognize what your stride length is and adjust the length of your stride to what your proper one is. Work on increasing your stride length and walking properly. So how this might play out for you is you test your stride length. You say, wow, this is what my stride length is today, or this is what my stride length is. You do some stretches before you do a walk. And then when you go to a walk, you walk really fast, but you make the proper stride length. Instead of big strides like this, you're making fast little strides that are more appropriate to your stride length. And you'll find that you are more upright. You're going to propel yourself forward with your glutes, and you're overall going to get a better cardiac exercise and be training your body a little bit better. Any questions on that to start with?
Yes, Rachel, when you had your foot on the half foam roller,
Yeah.
was your entire foot on the roller, or did you have your heel on the ground and the rest of your foot on the roller?
My heel is on the ground. I can show it again, but my heel is on the ground, and then my foot is on the foam roller. Let me see if I can.
Good luck.
Sorry.
Yep. Thank you.
See that? So my heel is on the ground, okay? And really, it's like my ball of my foot is on the roller right here, okay? And my weight is really in through my heel. It's not really on the foam roller. My weight is more into my heel.
Thank you.
Yep. The half foam roller is great. It's a great
No sound.
Yeah, we lost your audio.
Can you hear me? Can you
Yes.
hear me? Okay, excellent. Okay, so that's the half foam roller. And okay, so let me show you another one of Katie's exercises. Most of us have our feet in shoes all the time. And because there's a natural rocker motion to feet in a shoe, shoe designers decided that we should have a heel lift and a toe lift. But what happens to the bottom of our foot sorry,
Rachel, we lost you.
and the tissues on the top, particularly my ligaments, are always in a very short position. So,
Hey, Rachel,
yeah,
sorry, we lost a good bit of that. Do you mind repeating it?
absolutely. When we stick our feet in shoes, we often have this, they created this lift here, and then we have shortness on our ligaments and tendons on the top, and we have a heel lift right here. So now our tissue here is very, very long, and our tissue here is very, very short. So now I'm going to teach you how to stretch this top tissue right here. Very common to have cramps that happen when you do this, okay? It's not a bad thing, but always have your weight on your other foot in case you cramp so you can get out of it. I also want your weight on your other foot. We're going to stretch the top of our foot, but we're not going to have our weight on this guy, okay? So how we're going to do it, let me see if I can, yeah, okay. So I'm going to do it standing right here, okay? And I'm going to, can you, let me bring this down a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to be upright, or I could be on a chair, and I'm going to take my foot, and my weight is in my left foot, and on my right foot, I'm just going to have a very square, but I'm stretching the top, and my foot is cramping a little bit. And that cramp actually means that the tissue is sort of figuring out how to work again. It is used to, the tissue in the bottom of my foot is used to being constantly on a stretch. And then when I shorten it, even passively, like I'm doing right now, it doesn't know what to do, so it responds in a contraction. And that's sort of a brain signal to myself that my foot is coming to life again, okay? What it looks like from the back, would be like this. Now, because it's stretching my entire front line, if I bend at my hips, it's going to be less of a stretch. If I sat in a chair, it was going to be less of a stretch. If I stood on a bar stool, it's going to be less of a stretch than a low chair, okay? So a lot of people, particularly as they get older, they get a little bit of like a clenched hammer toe look, okay? So that hammer toe comes from the toes lifting up to create stability to keep from falling over, and then toes gripping down like this to keep from falling back, okay? And then we keep them locked in shoes, and so a lot of times we have these toes that are sort of like this all the time. Yoga toes and spacers that stretch the tissue out like this are very helpful for those little cramped up feet, okay? It also, sometimes when the joint gets really, really frozen, it can be trickier to work on that, okay? Okay, so there is a protocol exercises for the feet listed, okay? They say release tight tissue with balls, foam rollers on calf shins. Then release the tight extrinsic calf muscles and tight line, including the hamstrings and the back. And then we want to strengthen the toes, which is spread the toes, lift the toes, and short foot. I haven't gone over short foot yet. And then work on body alignment, okay? In the specific exercises for foot stability, it goes over calf stretch on foam roller, stretch the back line, stretch the lateral line, stretch the front line, strengthen the toes, short foot. All of these exercises can be found online. I will show you short foot to start with. And then I will, if anyone has time, I would stay and show you what some of these other exercises could look like, but they might be different for different people, meaning some of them might be for a more athletic person, other people might just want to do a really simple stretch. But let me show you short foot. So our arches are based on we have a structure in our foot that has nothing to do with the arch. How well your arch responds through something called short foot. So let me show you what short foot looks like, okay?
Hey, Rachel, we just lost about a minute of what you were saying.
Okay, I'm going to go over something called short foot, and short foot is about using your foot muscles to get your arch to respond, okay? And it's really, really an important thing with our feet. So I'm going to come down here on the ground, okay? And I'm going to have a tripod of my foot. That means underneath my heel is on the ground, underneath this toe, and underneath this guy is all on the ground, okay? I'm going to lift my toes up. I'm going to press my toes down. And now right here my arch is going to lift up. Do you see that little lift? It's subtle, but it's right in here. So this is short foot. So by short is we're taking the length of the tissue right here and we're bringing these closer together and lifting up our arch, okay? So this is short foot, okay? And what that's really doing is engaging with the toes into this line. And now if I wanted to, in a more advanced move, tie it into my body, it would look like, or my pelvis and hips, it would look like this, okay? I'm going to come right here, okay? I'm going to have my weight on this leg. I'm going to have my knee bent, okay? I'm standing on this one, but my weight isn't on it. I'm going to go into short foot. I'm going to now extend my knee, and I'm going to lift up and balance. And certainly you could have a chair here. And if you wanted to get more complicated, you could play with things for a couple of seconds. And that is going to be engagement of the foot into proper alignment with the body. Any questions on short foot? And Kate, there is lots of great, Emily Splickle in New York City, who I really love, has a lot of videos on short foot. She does a lot with short foot. Okay, something I talked to you briefly about was, but I had a great class this weekend, and it was on tapping into the nervous system better. Little bumpy balls like this guy, okay? Very quickly for 10 seconds, rolled on the bottom of the foot or hands or our shoulders, okay, anywhere, is going to increase the brain being able to sense that area, okay? So so this is going to help with the Pacini corpuscles, but it's really going to be up-regulating, helping your brain feel your nerves better, okay? So say you were going to work on any of these exercises and your brain wasn't feeling them as well, you could take a ball like this. They say 10 seconds, but 10 seconds of light, fast, rolling over the bottom of it, and then doing these exercises will really help your brain feel that better. And then when you do them a couple of times, like a couple times of short foot, your brain sticks with it better. This 10 seconds is not going to be lasting, but the feeling of your foot plus practicing the exercises a few times will help it dramatically. This mat right here that I talked about last week, it's Emily Splickle's Naboso mat. She's done a lot of research. She's got a lot of videos out. She does insoles of the same stuff. So this is like a yoga mat. It wasn't cheap. There's probably other things that would work that would be less expensive. But particularly for people who have things like Parkinson's, or they're a kid who has trouble putting their foot all the way on the ground, they only spend time up on their toes. Things like insoles with mats like this have been incredibly helpful for people to be able to sense where they are in space better. So if you were someone that might be beneficial, you should at least check out the videos they have online and see if it would be beneficial. Almost anyone is going to tap into their brain faster if they're getting a tactile stimulation at the same time. In the sheet that went around today, I also talked a little bit about rock tape possibly being helpful, and it could. But rock tape on the bottom of the foot is tricky to do because it tends to rub and then wrinkle, and the wrinkle isn't so good. I'd also had a link to Zen Toes, and Zen Toes is simply, if you look at it, it goes between the big toe. I don't know if you can see it right there. It goes between the big toe. So when you have a little bit of a bunion forming, if you were on your toes, it would sort of go like this on your foot, and it helps make your big toe in better alignment with the second. There's many, many devices that work like this. This happens to be one that has been very useful to many of my clients for very little money. All of these links are on Amazon. I'm not, there's no money. It's not one of my links or anything. It's just been very useful for many of my clients. It's been the most, there's many devices like this, but this one has been incredibly practical to many people. All right, any questions?
Just so you know, we can hear you, but your image is frozen.
Oh, I've got to figure out that internet thing. Okay. So if you can't see me, let me know if you can see me. But if you can't see me, I'm just going to talk through a little bit more. These specific exercises for foot stability, I have listed them with names, and you could look at them. They're all related to really stretching your back line. And most of them are Egoscue, E-G-O-S-C-U-E, which is my postural alignment therapy certification. And if you just look up Egoscue and the name, you should be able to find it, okay? Any more questions? Can you guys see me yet? Yeah, okay. Any questions? Yes.
This really helped this week with restless leg syndrome. Is there a link up at all? Because my legs have felt so great this week.
Yes. So they are not 100% sure what restless leg syndrome is. Okay. So there's a handful of different reasons of what they might think, including that it can be tied in with some autoimmune disease stuff. But that aside, it is typically an unknown nerve-related thing. By improving the bottom of the feet, you are giving better feedback to your body, and you are, to a certain extent, nourishing your nerves a little bit better. So it's not surprising to have all sorts of different positive things that happen in your body because you're feeling your feet better, you're using your foot better, you are Can't hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know when you can hear me.
We can hear you now.
We can hear you
Okay.
now.
So
And
having a really strong base,
Rachel-
it will help. Yes.
Rachel, above your photograph or above your picture, there's a sign or an indication that says Rachel Dixon's network bandwidth is low. So
Yeah.
if you want to talk to somebody about it, you can say that's the problem.
Yes. I know it is because I'm sharing bandwidth with my kids who are in school right now. So if I do have to try to get more internet or get a different internet system, but right now it is what it is. So any more questions about today? Yes, Paul.
Instead of using that ball with the little pimples on it on the nerves, would a massager help?
Yes. So vibration. So really there's a particular like metronome number and it's a high one. I forget what it is. But if you had a massager and you could make it lighter and faster, you know how sometimes they have like one speed and it's really slow and then they go really fast? Get the fastest speed and put it very lightly on the bottom of the foot, and that would work as well. You could even do a feather, like scratch the bottom of your feet, or you could go out and grass. You know, pebbles might be a little hard, but go out and grass and feel the grass. Anything that's going to be a little bit of a texture is going to be helpful for you. So any of those things would be helpful. Doesn't have to be an official ball. Any other questions? Anyone have any ideas of what next week should be that you want to focus on? And I could do another foot one and go over all the different exercises if you would like, or we could do something new.
I think going slowly through the whole spread of exercises you've given us in one fell swoop would be great.
Okay, so let's do that. We'll go over all the individual pieces that we have, plus we'll go over the exact protocol that we had, and I will go over all the different stretches that I had listed. Does that look good for next week? Okay, excellent.
It's very good for you to demonstrate.
Yes,
It's
I will play with
easier to see
my,
it than to listen to it.
yeah, I will definitely demonstrate all of them next week. So,
Thank
okay?
you, Rachel.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.